I Lived 6 Months on Orange Juice by John W. Marshall. For years I had known the great food value of the orange, not its value as measured in calories, but as a rectifier of the chemistry of the blood, as a restorer of the proper alkalinity of the life stream. I had seen many people live 2 and 3 weeks, and even a month, and on occasion even 6 weeks, on an exclusive diet of the delicious fruit. I had seen people complaining of all sorts of diseases, afflicted with worn-out, poisoned, overfed, and overnourished bodies, restored to a remarkable degree of health and vitality through the exclusive use of the citric fruit for varied periods of time. But when Dr. Leon A. Wilcox, a leading osteopathic physician of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, informed me in an unassuming fashion that he had a patient who had lived on orange juice for 6 months, I was actually amazed. I certainly should not have believed the story from the lips of an ordinary man, but Dr. Wilcox is a man of high repute among the members of his profession and among his many patients and friends in Pittsburgh, where he has lived and practiced for a quarter of a century. Then, too, when he told me the story as I sat there in his office, he spoke with such confidence and candor that I never thought for a moment to doubt his word. The following day, I had the pleasure of seeing and speaking with the patient herself, a quiet little girl with big blue eyes and an oval face encased in a lovely white skin, into which, as I conversed with her, there came and went flushes of pink and red as she told me the remarkable story of her recovery from a condition of living death and her gradual evolution into a creature of living delight unto herself and to all whom she might meet. This is the story she told me on that November evening as we sat there in Dr. Wilcox's office. When I was a little girl, I was just about like the other girls. I had fair health most of the time, though I was visited by the usual so-called children's diseases. I suppose you had a cold occasionally, I interrupted. Of course, plenty of them, especially in the winter-time, was the reply. She continued, at about 14 I began to get fat. My parents, stocky German type, heralded this acquisition of weight as a sign of health. Of course I thought the same, as I did really feel quite well most of the time. However, I had a voracious appetite and ate not only prodigious quantities of the good staple foods such as bread, meat, and potatoes, but I ate great quantities of candies, ice cream, etc. Certainly the most iron-bound constitution must have given way under the load. As the time went on, I got fatter and fatter, and my complexion, once ruddy and beautiful, began to acquire a sallow, yellowish appearance. Blackheads and pimples became numerous. To rid myself of the latter, I tried various lotions, cold creams, beauty clays, etc. To restore the roses to my cheeks, I tried various highly perfumed toilet soaps and, of course, rouge and powder. When I did not succeed in eliminating the pimples and blackheads by the use of the skin lotions, and when beauty soaps failed to restore the roses to my cheeks, I used more and more rouge, lipstick, and powder. Of course, it never occurred to me that my voracious and unbridled appetite had anything to do with my complexion, though my weight was steadily increasing. Dark rings began to appear beneath my eyes. I began to have headaches, which as time went on became more frequent. At first I sought relief in aspirin tablets, which of course relieved my headaches, but I realized that my condition was growing worse, so I began to visit doctors, from whom I got pills and prescriptions and orders to have my teeth pulled and my tonsils removed, and various suggestions of equally stupid character. Of course I did not realize then that all these things were stupid, though it is true I kept both my tonsils and my teeth. If the doctors had been unanimous in their analyses of my case, and had given the same prescriptions, I should probably have followed all the advice given. But the prescriptions varied so much that it was impossible to follow them. My appetite began to wane. My tongue was heavily coated, especially when I got up in the morning, but I took appetizers and ate highly spiced foods so that I was able to eat in spite of my revolting stomach. My headaches increased and my pains extended to other parts of the body. My legs, my arms, and especially my back ached most of the time. As I was now employed with the Westinghouse Electric Company and wanted to be always on the job, I had to force myself to do my duties, force myself to get up in the morning. force myself into my clothes, in fact, force every move that I made. In the end, even eating became a burden to me. The only act I did not force was going to bed at night, but my sleep was never sound and dreamless. Instead, I rolled and tossed all night long, with the occasional lapses of consciousness. However, when I rode on the train and occasionally even at work, I drowsed off into a stupor, not only because of my suffering and my unsightly condition, but because I discovered that while other girls were in demand, I remained a wallflower. I stayed away from dances and social gatherings of young people. I became exceedingly morose and morbid, and more self-centered. Life had become such a burden to me that many times, in moments of great depression, I contemplated suicide, and only refrained because I lacked the courage. When doctors' medicines failed to work, the neighbors advised herb teas, mud bath packs, grandmother's psychic, etc. But these home remedies were no more effective than those prescribed by the doctors. Instead of getting better, I got worse. My heart, which had been for some time troubling me a great deal, at times thumped so rapidly that it seemed it would jump out of my throat. My breath became short. My pains increased. My flesh became soft and pudgy. My ankles became almost as large as my calves. I was a sight to behold. Only 1.5 inches over 5 feet tall, barefoot, and weighing 186 pounds. Here I was, only 18 years of age, as big as a baby elephant, and saturated with the poisonous wastes from the food I had been eating. As I was about to give up in despair, I heard of Dr. Wilcox, the man who cures people with oranges. So, without a great deal of hope, but with the feeling that regardless of whether or not he could benefit me, since my condition was so bad that he could not possibly make me worse, I went to him, and for the first time since I had begun doctoring, I was told the real cause of my trouble. I was told that neither my stomach, nor my heart, nor my undernourished, decaying teeth, but my diet was responsible for my trouble. After a thorough examination, the doctor said, "We'll just put you on orange juice for 10 days as a starter on the cleansing process." Of course, this seemed like a long time to do without what I called food. But I was desperate, so I said, "All right, I'll do anything. I might as well be dead as in my present condition." The results were surprising, not only to me, but even to Dr. Wilcox, who had witnessed so many people doing the same thing. While the first few days were a bit difficult, I began to experience immediate relief, and before the 10 days were up, I had lost all of my pains, and I have never felt a headache since. When the days were finished, I felt so much better that I decided upon the doctor's advice to try the same diet for 10 days more. This was not hard to do, for I felt no desire for other food. At the end of 20 days, I felt still better, and my fat was rapidly dropping away. So as I still had no desire for other food, I continued on the exclusive orange juice diet. So I went on from one 10-day period to another, and as the days passed into weeks, and the weeks into months, as my desire for other foods had not returned, as I had long ago said goodbye to my pains, as my fat was melting away, as my complexion clearing up, I continued my course. Life had taken on a new meaning. I had begun to really enjoy living. I no longer drowsed on every occasion when I relaxed, but when I went to bed, my sleep was sound and untroubled, in contrast to the spasmodic sleep that gave me no rest in the days when I was living in the old way. I became active and alert, full of vigor and vitality. Boys and girls alike began to desire my company, and the former especially became increasingly interested in my newfound charms. So I continued day after day and week after week until now 6 months have passed and I am, as you see, completely restored to health and life. And I want to tell you, it's really great to be alive. I feel like running and dancing and singing all the time. To see was to believe. I compared the pictures which she showed me of the overfed, overstuffed creature which she had been, with the living, breathing reality before me, and I knew that her story was true. You seem to have gone through this period of purging without pain. This is unusual. People, as a rule, suffer somewhat, especially at the outset of such a restrictive diet. Did you not at times suffer and feel morbid and discouraged, I asked. No, she replied. I improved from the start, and although the first few days were painful, I felt better each day. At about the middle of the period, I had a slight running at the nose. Dr. Wilcox called it a period of elimination, but this did not bother me. I kept on as usual with my work in the office at the Westinghouse Electric Company. Then you worked throughout the period of 6 months you were on the orange juice diet, I again interrogated. Yes, and I walked about a mile every day, and felt like walking more, but the doctor cautioned against it. You seem to have kept in pretty close touch with Dr. Wilcox throughout the period. Yes, I visited him every day. While he emphasized the fact that not he but the oranges were doing the work, he felt that without his guidance I might go wrong. I probably would have too, she added. What do you eat now? I asked. Raw foods, altogether, green vegetables, and a few nuts. This diet I enjoy much better than once I enjoyed the old conventional cooked diet, she added with a smile of conviction. And thus ended the story of the wonderful transformation wrought by the daily use of 10 golden drops of sunshine from Florida. May it be told again and again. May it be an inspiration to thousands of suffering human beings, that they may be tempted to partake freely of this golden fruit, whose substance has imbibed so freely of the life-giving properties of the sun, that even the color of its skin bespeaks the gold that lies within.